Welcome to another edition of Market Impact Insights, your podcast source for business leadership perspectives to help your business grow. Hear from experts in marketing, sales, business strategy, and more, with practical advice for business success. Make sure you won't miss the latest episodes by visiting marketimpactnow.com. Now, here's your host, Dan Albaum.
Welcome back to another amazing episode of Market Impact Insights. This is a year of innovation and so much exciting opportunity when it comes to AI. Everyone's talking about it, and it feels like there are more advancements in the capabilities, what it enables for us leaders and our teams literally every day, and it can be overwhelming. But the bottom line is that there is a tremendous opportunity for business leaders who can really focus strategically on how to get their business ready and then fully enabled to take advantage of all that. We're going to have a conversation with someone who knows so much about that, and that is Shadi Yazdan, who is an AI advisor and business growth coach. She's working with small and mid-sized business leaders around the world to really get their businesses ready for AI and provide more clarity, structure, and strategy so that they can have more confidence to adopt AI as it evolves. And this is all about productivity, being able to do that efficiently, and also not getting caught in all of the noise, the hype, and getting lost in a lot of the jargon that is out there. Now, Shadi really brings firsthand experience into this conversation. She is a 4-time founder, 2 successful exits, including with an AI company. So she has that entrepreneurial experience and the hands-on strategic insight that will really allow us to have a conversation, including about the human factor. That's right. It's not just about the technology. It's about human-centered strategy and growth. Shadi, welcome to Market Impact Insights.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So you've had this interesting career journey. What originally sparked your passion now to pursue your more entrepreneurial path?
Good question. I've always been entrepreneurial. I've always had, from a very young age, build things on the side, as a kid with a lemonade stand and trying to sell my toys to my cousins, everything in between. And, I always wanted, I think the biggest desire for me was that ownership over my time, my own ideas, and the impact that I could create in this world. And early in my career, I realized I didn't really fit into that rigid corporate system. Mm-hmm. I pushed back. I was the one getting in trouble with HR all the time. And, I have the ability of seeing problems and already figuring out what the solution is and wanting to solve them. And entrepreneurship was the tool, the path, the way in which it gave me the ability to build solutions instead of asking for permissions all the time. And when I built my AI company, we essentially predicted customer behavior in real time without collecting personal data. And that is something unheard of even today with all the AI companies that are coming to the surface. What this really showed me is how you can innovate and still operate with integrity. Our technology was probably one of the only ones at that time, and maybe even today, that didn't collect personal information, and it ran all prediction in real time. And that combination of innovation and responsibility is what has always been the foundation of core of who I am and what really drives me.
Yeah, it's that balance. And there's something you said that really jumped out to me. And that was you really had some good self-awareness about what really was the right kind of environment, that you weren't fitting in corporate. And it seems like a lot of us, when we're early in our careers, we can err on the side of caution. That is the safety net, right, of the larger corporation. And even if we feel that there's a spirit of entrepreneurialism, maybe we're stopped by fear. What if I go out and fail? Was that something that you wrestled with at all, or did you just have the confidence and it was easy for you to make that transition?
Oh, I wrestled with it A lot. I just knew where I was not where I wanted to be, but I didn't know where I wanted to be. I started out my career in the public sector. I did work with the government, and I just felt like there was something else. I didn't know what it was, so I thought maybe the private sector is what I need to. That's where I should be. And when I got there, I found it really brutal. I didn't understand why you were being paid based on your gender and the fact that you didn't negotiate properly and all the games that are played in the corporate world. And it just didn't feel, again, aligned. Something always felt like it was missing. And I still didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was on a path of finding this dream job, this golden cup, I guess you may want to call it. Yeah. And I tried so many different things. Nothing fed my soul. So I decided if I can't find my dream job, I'm going to create it. And I didn't realize that's entrepreneurship, that what I was doing was really entrepreneurship. And what I really love about the world of entrepreneurship, and I know it is really hard. And sometimes every day you're doubting yourself. You have the emotional ups and downs more than anything else you do. But what really feeds my soul, at least, is knowing that I am creating something out of nothing, almost like going through that whole process of giving birth, but also at the same time that I am the master of my own results and future and so forth. And just knowing that it's all in my hand was a huge driver for me. And also at the same time, being able to wear so many different hats and not being pigeonholed in one area. So there is no way on earth that you can be bored with entrepreneurship because you've got fires every 5 minutes of the day to put out.
Yeah.
So when I finally discovered that this is the world I wanted to be in, and I was quite shocked that it took me so long to get there.
So when you look back on your journey so far, what are some of the biggest learnings that you've taken from that? And have there been surprises for you along the way?
Oh gosh, so much so I can write a book. Everything you think you know about entrepreneurship, which is what media tells us, which is what like all the, successful founders that have raised millions and millions of dollars tell you, all of that is BS. That's number one. My biggest learning is that business is never really about business. And that took me a really long time to understand. I used to think success was about strategy, execution, timing, your smarts. And yeah, those things matter, but I built and exited companies. I built an AI company and I had the credentials. I have an executive MBA from an Ivy League school. But what really shaped me most was none of that. None of that really made a difference. It was really not the wins. It was who I had become in order to keep going. So entrepreneurship really forced me to face my fear of visibility, my fear of being enough, my need for external validation. Every setback was a mirror. I tell people, if you really are serious about therapy, don't go to a therapist, build a business. I learned that outer growth will never outpace inner alignment for long. And if you scale without growing internally, something will break, either your health, your relationship, your integrity. And today, when I advise a lot of the CEOs on AI strategy, I'm not only thinking about tools. I hardly ever talk about tools. I'm always thinking and talking about the maturity of the leadership team, their clarity, courage, their ability to really handle pressure without losing themselves and taking their stuff out on other people. And the biggest learning is this: your business expands to the level that you expand, not beyond it. So if you're very limited in your thinking and your self-awareness, your business will only go so far.
Yeah, I mean, it's really it's defining where those potential guardrails are, right? Based on your own willingness to continuously learn and be curious. I found and I had a lot of conversations, Shadi, with leaders and they say the same thing in terms of what was key to their success, which was having a certain level of humbleness to know that they don't always have to be the smartest person in the room and have all the answers. It seems like that's a trap that is easy to fall into also.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Because you're the boss. You should know it all. And that is really dangerous mindset to have.
Yeah. Well, let's get into AI a bit because there is so much focus on this and changes all around us. And there also are some misconceptions out there and misperceptions out there around AI. What are some of those that you're seeing as it relates to how it can and is transforming how we work?
Very good question. One of the biggest misconception is that, well, there's two of them, that AI is a tool and it's a tech problem. It's actually, the way that I look at AI is if we go back, and I'm old enough to remember when the internet became the internet that we know today, and how much, there was so much pushback, like this is just a fad, it's going to go away, it's never going to work. That's really where we are with AI. And so right now, where we are with AI and majority of the technology on the market is really not AI. It's promoted, marketed as AI, but it's not. What we are currently seeing is a leadership problem. Most CEOs are being pressured by their board, media, and competitors to do something with AI without any clarity on what that actually even means. And that pressure really leads to reactive decisions instead of strategic ones. And that's why every day you see these reports about how majority of AI implementations fail. Yeah, they fail because they're not grounded in strategy. Companies think that they need tool, but what they really need is decision clarity. And AI really forces you to examine how aligned your leadership team is, how clean your data is, and whether your strategy is strong enough to scale. And then another misconception is that AI replaces people. Every single day, I'm seeing report after report after report about this. And in reality, it's not replacing people. It's exposing weak systems and rewarding strong ones. AI isn't really here to fix messy businesses. And if your business is already bleeding and in trouble, no magic wand is going to help you. It's just going to magnify what's already there. So if your processes are broken, AI is going to break them faster. If your culture is strong, AI is going to accelerate your performance.
So, Shadi, we've seen a lot of very high profile announcements of companies that are reducing their workforce. And some of those, they're actually mentioning AI as a driving factor that we're kind of readjusting or realigning. Do you feel like some of that is a bit of a smokescreen? In other words, let's use AI versus maybe talking about some of the other real reasons that they're having to do those kind of massive changes in their headcount?
Well, I'll answer it in this way of what I'm seeing in my work. A lot of the companies, and I work with mid-sized businesses across the US, most of them are non-tech companies, and the few that are have replaced majority of their workforce with quote unquote AI technology. And you know what they're calling me in for? It's not working. We need somebody to come and fix the system. Yeah. And now they're trying to call their people back.
Wow.
So we're not at a, maybe in the future we will be in a place where AI, yes, is going to replace a lot of jobs, but let's not forget the internet also replaced a lot of jobs and also created new jobs that we didn't even know could exist. So it's the same thing. Yes, it's going to eliminate some jobs that are redundant, but it's also going to create jobs that we can't even fathom what they would look like.
Yeah. And something else that you've talked a lot about is growth and scaling in this new AI world. How should we be thinking about that?
So the way that I think about growth and scale and AI is you actually don't scale with AI. Before investing in tools, you really want to ask 3 questions of yourself. Everything has to always be grounded in strategy. And I'm really troubled to see how strategy is becoming like nothing when all these companies are pushing for tools after tools after tools. So the questions that you want to ask, the 3 key questions are, what are your biggest bottlenecks in your business before you even think of bringing on an AI tool or even thinking of AI? So we're really purely focusing on your business, where it is today and where you want to take it. Number two, you want to ask yourself, what are decisions slow or emotional? No, where are your decisions slow or emotional instead of data informed? So are you making decisions? Are you thinking about bringing on an AI tool because so-and-so competitor did, because so-and-so marketing is telling you to do it? Or is the data that you have, and first and foremost, you actually need to know where your data is. When was the last time you even structured and cleaned your data to be able to answer this question? I can't tell you how many companies look at me like, what do you mean my data? It's on some cloud somewhere, and they've never even accessed it, or they don't even know what to do with it. And then the last question, what are we wasting human talent on repetitive work? And AI should really support your strategy. And when you answer those questions have nothing to do with AI. They're all about strategy, where your business is and where you want to take it. And I've seen companies spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on tools without first fixing leadership misalignment. That money doesn't create growth. And then they wonder, and they say, oh, the AI technology doesn't work, so they give up. It doesn't, if your actions and if your ultimate plan for your business doesn't tie into revenue, efficiency, margin improvement, or customer experience, it's just a distraction. It's a waste of time. Scaling in the AI era means building internal capacity. And this is what most don't realize and don't even think about. So your team really must learn how to think with AI, not depend on vendors or what I call magic wand to think for them.
Yeah. So it's really kind of raising the bar in terms of the internal skill set of your teams, if that's available through training, but really probably some of that hands-on experience is golden, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And you talked about having the right focus on understanding the bottlenecks at the very beginning, right? Before you make any of these commitments. And I think that ties to kind of a common challenge, which is confusing activity with impact, right? And so if we feel better because we're throwing money or we're throwing a lot of projects at just, and the teams are just kind of working in around this AI area, maybe that satisfies the board or it satisfies us that we're kind of doing are making the right investment in it. But it doesn't, I think what you're saying is, but that isn't necessarily going to really drive the long-term sustainable impact.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Unfortunately, it won't.
Yeah. So what are some of the biggest keys for business founders today to really develop and maintain the right kind of healthy culture that really supports that kind of scaling you were talking about?
Yeah. So number one, clarity. I'll always go back to clarity, accountability, and psychological safety. Psychological safety is something that corporate America is suffering from right now. First, we really need to define what winning looks like, and most teams lack a shared definition of success. It sits in the mind of the leader, and he or she doesn't communicate to the rest and hopes that people will just magically know. And then second, hold standards. Culture is not a perk. And often in many businesses, when they talk about our culture is this and that, it's always described in terms of perks. You know, giving your people free lunch is not your culture. It's what you tolerate, you know? And then third, you want to create space for truth. If people fear speaking up, problems stay hidden. That comes down to psychological safety. And leadership misalignment is one of the most common invisible reasons AI and growth initiatives fail. And it's one of the reasons why companies fail. If the executive team is not unified, if they're not speaking the same language and communicating effectively to the rest, the organization feels it immediately. And high-performing cultures are often ones that confront reality early. And founders really must model emotional regulation. Man, you know, like really, this is key. And I see it over and over again. If you panic, your team panics. If you stay steady, your team stays stabilized. Yeah. And really, culture starts at the nervous system of the leader. So if you have a leader that is already going through a lot of challenges himself or herself, isn't, regulated, and their nervous system is all over the place and they're going through their own issues, that's going to show in how they lead and the people that they're leading and so forth. And that's why I always say culture and leadership is an internal job.
Yeah, I mean, temper tantrums rarely produce any sort of positive, lasting result, right? And maybe the person that's having the tantrum feels better in the moment, but it doesn't end well, does it?
Never. Unfortunately, never. It never ends well. And then taking your anger out on your people. And I've seen this. Like, I am, actually the stranger that comes into a company and working with them, and you have the manager that's yelling at someone right there. And it's just really odd to me to be a witness to that kind of human behavior.
Yeah. And you hit on something earlier that is so important, and that is psychological safety. In terms of your own companies and how you've applied that in practice, can you maybe give some examples of what you have proactively done to ensure you can create that kind of safety environment?
So I've made a lot of mistakes. I fell into a lot of these traps myself. But I would say the one thing that I have learned over and over again is that at the end of the day, every single person, regardless of their skill, wants to feel appreciated and safe. And if you can find ways of communicating that to your people, it goes a long way. I did something unheard of in one of my businesses that completely changed the dynamic of the team. I don't know if you've heard of the book, The 5 Love Languages. It is a book. Yeah, it's a book that's used in relationships. Mm-hmm. So when I hired someone, I actually had them take the assessment because I wanted to know what their love language was. Mm-hmm. And I used that as a way of communicating with my team. The hardest, of course, was touch, because oftentimes you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get in trouble. Right. And I ran remote teams. So I still haven't figured out how to utilize that most effectively. But with words of affirmation, when you know what someone's love language is and when you're communicating with them in that manner, it goes such a long way. You're talking to their subconscious. The behavior and your relationship and the interaction changes. That, and also ensuring that your team understands that we are not running a company where you've got, the typical hierarchy of the boss at the top and the people at the bottom, that it's more of a flat structure where unless they speak out about the problems and come to the table with solutions, then we're really not going to move forward within the company. And ultimately, it will not just affect the company, but it will affect them as well. So creating an environment where people feel safe to speak up and share what's working, what's not, has gone a long way. Like one of the exercises we used to do on I didn't like to do any meetings on Mondays because everyone was already coming out of the weekend. We often did our team meetings on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. And the number one question I would always ask my team is what's working, what's not working, what could we do that we're not doing? And those 3 questions really that was the core foundation of our meetings. And it would either take half an hour or an hour, depending on what people brought to the table. But what was really great about that was how easy and comfortable people felt about coming and really speaking about their thoughts and their desires and what they wanted to see. And those that were very entrepreneurial in their mindset were the ones that flourished the most, because here they could actually help co-create a company that they may not have the means to go out there and do on their own.
Do you feel like that kind of a question and engaging format really made a difference when you think about in teams? What I've seen, typically there's different personality types. Some people are much more comfortable, extroverted. Others are more deep thinker, introverted, and they're not as likely to just proactively be talking. But do you feel like that kind of pulled in and created more participation, engagement across all those different types?
So I'm really glad you actually asked that question. I am actually an introvert, and this is what I struggled with throughout my career. So I've been very mindful of creating an environment where the introverts have a voice. So we oftentimes had timed this. So everybody had to say at least one thing, and there was a time limit on how long you could share your idea. And once we got around to everyone, if you had more to add, you could add as well. And I found that really helped. The introverts, they had their own space, dedicated time that they could share their thoughts without being overpowered by the extroverts. Unfortunately, we live in an extroverted world. So I always used to find ways that I could go out of my way to create that safety for the introverts in the room.
Yeah,
and they don't oftentimes want to talk. I mean, there's another strategy that I really liked using, because as you know, being introverted, I don't always just want to speak out. And sometimes I need processing time. So I could be in a team meeting and I need time to take away the information, think about it, sit with it, and then come back to the table. So we also had an anonymous way that you could share your thoughts and feelings, whether it, most of the time it was written. It was like a survey that you would submit and say, this is the challenge I'm having today. This is what I think we should do. This is what I want to share. This is what came out in the meeting. And, then you would be able to share. And if you wanted to give more information about who you are, and if you want to speak to management about it and so forth, you can do that. But it was always that safe environment of whether or not you want to share that information or not.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's really meeting people where they are. And at the end of the day, for teams, especially in an environment, and I love the fact that you had that question at your team meetings that was kind of aspirational in terms of what else could we be doing, right? How do we seek improvement so we don't get into our comfort zone, but we're always stretching? That provides an energy that hopefully enables the talents of everyone, right, to contribute towards that. So really, really smart approach.
Mm-hmm. And it all comes down to trial and error, right? I mean, I read so many leadership books. I tried so many strategies, and I found, taking a little bit of everything and putting it together, and oftentimes creating something based on your team, because you know the people and you know how your company functions, oftentimes works the best. So I'm a huge advocate that one size does not fit all. And some things work better than others. And the most frustrating thing is how some of these leadership books all seem to have the recipe for perfection. And I got to tell you, they all fail.
Yeah. Well, speaking of leadership, what do you think at the end of the day separates exceptional leadership from just good enough?
Good question. I've often thought about this. And again, I don't think it's one size that fits all. But number one is a good leader is self-aware and has done their own internal work and constantly doing internal work, always asking those difficult questions, always sitting in that uncomfortable feeling. They think long-term when everyone else is reacting in short-term. And that's very difficult when things are being, going out of plan and things are being destroyed, and you're just like, okay, I got to think of long term. I can't just put a Band-Aid on this. There's something to be said about knowing how to regulate your emotions under pressure that I don't think many of us are taught. These are skills I wish school taught us. Instead of forcing us to memorize mathematical formulas, teach us how to regulate our emotions, how to even understand our emotions. And I think exceptional leaders are ones that make decisions based on principles, not ego. We live in a world of ego-driven, self-centered human beings that are running big corporations, and the people that end up suffering are the ones that are working for them. These are leaders that take responsibility without blame, and exceptional leaders never, ever chase trends. They filter noise. And in the AI world, this matters more than ever, because every single day there's a new tool, new this, new that, new release. And there will always be a new tool. There will always be a new innovation, a new technology, a new way of doing X, Y, and Z. And, good enough leaders manage tasks. Exceptional leaders are the ones that are shaping directions, energy, and standards. And like I said, they're constantly, every single day, doing their own inner work, checking in with themselves. They have a mindset of growth. They examine their own fears, blind spots, their need for control. They check their ego as much as possible. And I really believe that scaling a company requires scaling yourself first. And if you haven't done that, you should not be even thinking about scaling a company.
What is the best piece of business advice you have ever received?
Early on in my entrepreneurial journey, I was fortunate enough to work with one of the most incredible investors who had invested in my company, but also ended up being a really incredible mentor and a friend. And he always used to say to look at business like dating, like a relationship, and make sure you're always dating, getting into serious relationship, and then getting married. And every single partnership and every single deal and every single people you bring on, think in those terms. And he also said to me, protect your decision-making quality at all costs and check your ego at the door. Guard your time, guard your energy, guard your focus, and always ask yourself, why am I doing what I'm doing? And every rush decision I have made came from fear and urgency. I noticed that. And every strong decision I made came from clarity, alignment, and belief in something higher than myself. Knowing that I'm not here for me and me alone, that I'm here to bring some sort of a value to humanity and the people that surround me. And business, I see this every day more and more as I get older. It really rewards clear thinking, not constant activity just for the sake of saying that you're busy.
And so we've got so much going on in the world right now, and including with technology and how we need to think differently to really create that scale. But when you think about the future, what's making you optimistic?
So, as you mentioned, we're entering a period where small, disciplined teams, or even a team of one, can now actually easily compete with large organizations. And this is exciting for me because AI is really reducing the cost of intelligence. That means better ideas, better leadership win, not just bigger budgets. For mid-sized companies that I work with, this is a rare window, even for the small companies, even for the solo entrepreneurs. Now there's that alignment. You're aligned enough to adapt and large enough to invest. And if you move with clarity, you can outperform the slow enterprises, which oftentimes they are. They're very, very slow because they have to go through so many decision-making frameworks and people. And leaders who actually are aware enough to combine technology with integrity and strong judgment will build resilient companies. I think we're going to hear more and more about companies that are companies of 1 or 5 completely surpassing the big enterprise, the big guys, the Fortune 500s.
Wow, that's the ultimate leveling of the playing field. It's more than leveling the playing field. It's like flipping the field entirely over on its end.
Yes.
Wow. Well, as we wrap up the conversation, Shadi, do you have any other final advice for leaders who want to create more positive impact and elevate the performance of their teams?
Absolutely. Number 1 would be check your ego, do your inner work. If you're not sure how, look for a cognitive behavior therapist. Work with them. Slow down your thinking before you speed up your execution. Define your strategy clearly. Communicate it, repeatedly. Be vulnerable. If you don't know, I really don't know. Invest in your team's ability to think, not execute. And start with one real business problem. Solve it, and then move on to the next one. Technology will continue to advance. That's just the reality of our world. And if you're chasing tools and trends because some marketing guru or media outlet told you, you're always going to be running and you're going to lose. And the leaders I see who will rise will be the ones who build clarity, discipline, and trust inside their organization. And AI is not really about becoming more machine-like. It's becoming more intentional, more aligned, and more disciplined as a leader. And that's what I think is going to create more positive impact.
Start inward first. I love that. A great way to wrap things up. Shadi, thanks again for coming, giving us a new way to think about what business success really is. It may not just be about business, and the opportunity to really think about AI just so very differently with the exciting opportunities ahead. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Same. Thank you so much for having me. It was a lot of fun. Thank you for giving me the space to share some of my thinking and where I see the world of AI going.
Absolutely. And a reminder to please continue to give the gift of feedback to help make this podcast even better. You can do that by going out and giving a rating and a review. It's so easy to do on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple and Spotify. And as always, make sure to visit marketimpactnow.com for the latest in business leadership perspectives. So long until next time.